Hey class, today we're going to be looking at some saving alternatives and investment alternatives. It's a little bit more of like just an understanding of a lesson. I wouldn't say it's so focused on the math, but let's look at an example of financial saving alternatives. So example one, Jody received $530 from family members for her birthday. She plans to buy a car in the near future. She's putting all of her birthday money towards the purchase. On June 1st, she opened a savings account and deposited $538. The account pays an annual interest rate of 0.5% compound daily. So using the compound interest formula, let's solve for A and B. And so this is just looking at the difference in days and how much actual interest you're earning on some of these elements. Okay, so let's look at question A here. Okay, so we know that the initial amount deposited is $530. Okay, we know that the compounding periods is 365 days. So when we solve for interest, just a reminder that interest equals R divided by N. So we would get the interest rate here, which is 0.05%, placed it into a decimal. Divide by 365, okay, equals, do some math here. It's going to be a number, so if you wanted to put that in as a fraction, you can when you go to solve it. So I'll show you that method. And then the number of days essentially here. So because it's not based on years, it's just 30 days is what's actually happening, right? So just make sure that's the actual time frame. So when we solve for that, we get A equals P1 plus I to the power of N. So we get 530 times 1 plus, just because this is such a large number, if you keep it in a fraction, when you go to do the work, it'll just come up as a better number to the power of 30. Okay. So again, you start within the bracket, solve here, then go to the exponent, and then you would multiply by 530. And we find out that approximately, okay, Jody would earn 22 cents essentially in interest with that daily interest rate over 30 days, to give you an idea. So not very good if we're talking about anything like that. So for over the 30 days, it doesn't do a lot for anybody here. So let's look at what would happen if it was 183 days. So we're going to essentially use the same formula, okay, for question B. We know that the initial amount deposited is 530, right? We know that the interest rate is still over daily, so 365 days in a year. But the only difference here, instead of 30 days, it's 183 days. And when we go to solve, we find out that it's $531.33. So approximately at 183 days, she's made $1.33 in comparison to the original 530, right? That's the original. This is what she came out with. So the difference is $1.33, okay? As here, it was 22 cents, okay? So sometimes interest, you might see a percentage, but you actually have to do the math out to actually understand, like, what are you earning? Are you earning a lot? Like in this situation, is 0.5% really good? No, it's not. Like, you earn very minimal. But you'll notice right now, interest rates are really low. So if you're saving, it's hard to save because you're not going to earn a lot of money, but it's great to borrow money because you don't owe the bank as much. So there's two ends to that story, okay? Let's look at another example of saving alternatives. Okay, so example 2 here. Okay, so this is a great question, probably applies, most of you guys probably have a checking account or some type of account with a bank right now. And not all banks are free. So a certain bank's account will charge per transaction, will charge like a monthly fee. So just make sure you know what your bank account is asking. So example, Hun's bank charges $5.95 for up to 10 transactions per month, plus $1 for each additional transaction. In October, he made 8 transactions. In November, he made 23. Determine the service charges deducted from Hun's account each month. Okay, so let's look in first October, okay? So in October, okay, Hun made 8 transactions, okay? But he is allowed 10 transactions, okay? So he's only charged $5.95 that month, right? Because he had less than 10. Okay. Now let's look in November. Okay. So November, he had 23 transactions. So he has to pay the $5.95 for the 10, right? But then what you're looking at is that of those 23, 10 of them are essentially free, right? So what you get is you get $5.95, okay, plus 13, and those 13 are times by the price of $1, okay? So we find out it's $5.95 plus $13. So in the month of November, he actually paid $18.95 because he went over his transaction account. So this is something to really watch for. That's a lot of money to be paying to your bank due to transactions. So really make sure you go talk to the banks based on your needs, because again, a lot of you are probably using transactions. Like that's how I primarily pay for stuff. I don't pay for cash in a lot of things. So this is something to look for when you are banking. Okay guys, so just a couple of questions for this unit. They won't take you very long to do, okay? Page 465, number 3A CE, 4A 67, just looking at different savings alternatives.